In the aftermath of World War II, the ideological divide between the United States and the Soviet Union delineated Europe along the Iron Curtain, ushering in the Cold War era.
Soviet Russia and its Communist International Organization intends to do in the immediate future. From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an Iron Curtain has descended across the continent.
The formation of NATO in 1949 became a crucial bastion of collective defense against Soviet aggression, while the Warsaw Pact mirrored this stance. Against this historical backdrop, contemporary Ukraine, situated in the complex nexus of Russian influence, grapples with profound geopolitical challenges. Since gaining independence in 1991, Ukraine has embarked on a distinctive trajectory, with a fervent aspiration to join European Union. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 and the ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine have elevated the urgency for Ukraine to safeguard its sovereignty. Drawing poignant lessons from historical confrontations, Ukraine views EU membership not merely as a strategic alliance, but as a fundamental component of its geopolitical identity. However, navigating a path towards European Union encounters a labyrinth of obstacles, both on the domestic front and within the international arena. Let us explore the historical foundations and contemporary intricacies of Ukraine's relentless pursuit of EU membership, scrutinizing the multifaceted factors shaping the nation's geopolitical future in the face of formidable challenges. The European Union faces an unprecedented challenge as it deliberates on Ukraine's potential accession, deviating from its historical reluctance to admit countries entangled in major wars without NATO security guarantees. The Russian invasion has compelled a reevaluation of Ukraine's role, now considered crucial for European values and security. Despite reservations, including skepticism from notable voices like France, EU leaders are poised to make a pivotal decision, thereby initiating accession talks with Ukraine.
We iterated our agreement concluded on May 14th this year, aimed at providing air defense equipment in protection against Russian strikes. We also confirmed that we're ready to put in place the necessary framework to start training Ukrainian fighter pilots according to the needs of the Ukrainian Air Force.
The journey, however, is fraught with complexities, demanding substantial reforms from Ukraine and presenting integration challenges for the EU as it navigates the entry of a large, agriculturally potent, yet economically challenged nation. A critical conundrum emerges as the EU contemplates admitting a country mired in a major interstate war without the security assurances provided by NATO. This dilemma raises pertinent questions about the EU's capacity to safeguard its external borders independently of NATO's involvement. As Ukraine inches closer to membership, collaborative efforts are imperative to establish a credible and sustainable strategy with the United States, ensuring Ukraine's defense capabilities throughout and after accession. The principle of deterrence, echoing from the Cold War era, resonates deeply for Ukraine. Aligning itself with NATO, Ukraine seeks to leverage the alliance's collective defense mechanism enshrined in Article 5 of the NATO Charter. This mutual defense pact ensures that an attack on one member is considered an attack on all, providing Ukraine with a tangible security umbrella and deterring potential aggressors. For Ukraine, this isn't just a strategic alliance. It's a tangible step towards integration into the Euro-Atlantic community. It represents a pathway to political stability, economic development, and the consolidation of democratic institutions. While recent EU initiatives toward military aid and defense industrial support for Ukraine are commendable, challenges persist in shaping a coherent, long-term defense strategy. Scrutiny is warranted regarding the EU's assumption that membership itself serves as the ultimate security guarantee for Ukraine. Amidst comprehensive reforms in Ukraine, contemplation of scenarios becomes crucial. Ukraine joining NATO before the EU, potential US intervention in the event of an EU attack, or the elusive prospect of a peace agreement with Russia. These scenarios grapple with uncertainties, such as NATO's current reluctance, US caution in engaging with a nuclear-armed Russia, and the elusive nature of a peace deal with Putin.
Парафирован руководителем переговорной группы из Киева. Он поставил там свою подпись. Вот он.
The war in Ukraine has propelled the EU toward evolving as a defense union, albeit at a measured pace. Recent initiatives, including coordinated military aid and revitalization of the defense industrial base, target Europe's shortcomings. Nevertheless, the EU's emphasis on these efforts has eclipsed the vital debate on its security guarantee to member states under Article 42.7. The absence of military planning, command, and control assets, coupled with member states' reluctance, poses a significant challenge to the credibility of Article 42.7, especially in the context of Ukraine's accession. As the EU grapples with the challenges of Ukraine's accession, establishing a credible interim security arrangement is indispensable to empower Kyiv to defend itself. U.S. involvement remains pivotal in marshaling resources and providing the necessary military support.
Packages like this that signal we're not just providing assistance to Ukraine right now, but it's going to be a steady stream of assistance that will stretch out over many months and years, is precisely challenging Putin's miscalculation, we believe, that he can just grind it out and wait it out.
In parallel developments, Hungary, led by Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, initially obstructed a 50 billion euros aid package to Ukraine, following EU leaders' agreement to commence accession talks with Kyiv. Subsequently, Orbán withdrew the veto on future accession talks, allowing them to progress, while maintaining the block on immediate financial assistance for Ukraine.
I am convinced that today in Brussels, Europe is being destroyed and led to its ruin.
Despite the initial veto, Orbán asserted that Hungary stands to lose nothing in the process, emphasizing that the ultimate decision on Ukraine's EU membership rests with national parliaments. He articulated that, conditional on Ukraine fulfilling the 7 conditions set by the European Commission, he would not impede the accession process.
Pénzt akarnak adni, hogy folytatódjék a háború. Tehát számos okunk volt arra, hogy azt mondjuk, hogy no, ezt nem. Tehát legyen világos, hogy Ukrajna nem készült fel arra, hogy az unió tagja legyen. Ez a döntés időszerűtlen, nem érett meg a helyzet erre.
The EU's historic choice to initiate membership talks with Ukraine, despite its ongoing conflict with Russia, marks a significant stride toward Ukraine aligning with the West. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed it as a victory for both Ukraine and Europe, providing motivation and strength. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz played a pivotal role in facilitating the decision by persuading Orbán to temporarily exit the room. The leaders also greenlit accession talks with Moldova and accorded membership candidate status to Georgia. Additionally, talks with Bosnia will commence after specific political reforms. Despite the decision, Orbán, citing concerns about corruption and readiness, maintained his objections to Ukraine's EU talks, raising suspicions of leveraging the issue to unlock frozen EU funds linked to Hungary's rule of law concerns. Portuguese Prime Minister Costa celebrated the unanimous decision on Ukrainian accession. Despite lingering disagreements over aid, he expressed hope for a final resolution in January. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte expressed confidence in EU leaders finding compromises and unlocking funds for Ukraine in early 2023.
Next steps for Ukraine in the accession talks. It will take, anyway, many years before accession will take place, but this is about the next step. Ukraine has worked extremely hard to make that next step happen during a war.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz shared optimism about reaching an agreement in January, exploring alternative ways to support Ukraine should Hungary persist in its opposition. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen assured that a financial solution for Ukraine would be reached at the next European Council in January.
Hungary was unable to support. So there is now a new rendezvous early next year. And we will use as a Commission the time until then to ensure that whatever happens at this next UCO, we will have an operational solution.
The EU stands ready to circumvent a Hungarian veto, potentially allowing bilateral funding from all EU countries except Hungary. The developments at the EU summit and Zelensky's discussions in Washington underscore the dynamic nature of this geopolitical landscape, where the future of Ukraine's European integration remains a multifaceted and evolving narrative. Ukraine has fortified its air defense systems to counter Russian airstrikes, yet challenges persist, including potential shortages of ammunition to respond to large-scale attacks. Should Russia breach Ukrainian defenses and damage critical infrastructure, the humanitarian crisis, already dire due to Moscow's invasion, could worsen. Zelensky's visit to Washington unfolds amid shifting political dynamics compared to his trip last December, characterized by robust bipartisan support for military aid.
I came here to the United States to forward the word of thanks to the people of America, people who do so much for Ukraine. I am thankful for all of this.
However, recent months have seen a diminishing support for continued U.S. aid, particularly among Republicans. Approximately half of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents now perceive U.S. aid to Ukraine as excessive, according to a Pew survey. Congressional Republicans condition their support for additional aid to Ukraine on its linkage with funding for stringent U.S.-Mexico border security measures, a stance at odds with Democrats in the White House. House Speaker Mike Johnson, previously supportive of additional aid, criticized the Biden administration for what he deemed a lack of clear strategy in addressing the Ukraine crisis. Russian President Vladimir Putin has publicly expressed confidence that Ukraine is depleting its weaponry, asserting that the country lacks a future, in stark contrast to Russia's perceeve strength.
Поставки идут военной техники, тяжелой техники. Сейчас рассматривается вариант поставки самолетов. Собственно говоря, вот сегодня я уже говорил о том, что там на одном участке предпринимаются попытки атак силами двух рот при поддержке 5 танков. На другом участке.
In summary, the path to Ukraine's EU membership is marked by intricate geopolitical considerations, intricate negotiations, and ongoing challenges. The decision to commence accession talks signals a significant shift in the EU's approach, but is accompanied by complexities that extend beyond diplomatic realms, involving military strategy, financial considerations, and alignment with European values. As Ukraine navigates this process, the collaboration between the EU and the US becomes pivotal, reflecting not only on the security of the European continent, but also on the shared commitment to democratic principles and the sovereignty of nations.
Committed to help Ukraine build a force capable of ensuring Ukraine's long-term security, capable of deterring future threats against sovereignty, territorial integrity, and freedom, which are underway now.
The developments at the EU summit and Zelensky's discussions in Washington underscore the dynamic nature of this geopolitical landscape, where the future of Ukraine's European integration remains a multifaceted and evolving narrative.
Будь-які обмеження нашого експорту зараз абсолютно неприпустимі, бо це посилює не нас усіх в Європі, а лише посилює можливості агресора. Ми пропонуємо, настав час для позитивного рішення щодо відкриття переговорів про членство України